I cannot believe this quilt is only $250. Hey, it's Doug with Backcountry Pilgrim, and today I am looking at what may be the best budget quilt that I've ever seen. This is the Neve Waratah, or maybe I should call it Neve. Hey, crikey, mate. My Australian accent is not great. This is a quilt made in Australia. This is a $250 quilt that has the specs of something that I would expect to be quite a bit more expensive. Now, if you follow the channel, you know that I've had a bit of a love-hate relationship with various sleep systems. I started off in a mummy bag, which I couldn't stand because, as it turns out, I am a stomach sleeper. I like to have a leg kicked out, arms up. It just didn't work. So I decided I would jump on the quilt craze, and I picked up a UGQ Bandit. It was a fantastic quilt, but I didn't really know what I was doing. Looking back now, I realized that I got it a bit too small for my style of sleep. I was having a lot of trouble in cold nights because anytime I would squirm around, which I do a lot, I was getting drafts, I was getting cold spots. It just wasn't working out. So I ditched it and I went back to sleeping bags because I thought that those were gonna work better for me as a side or stomach sleeper. When Neve asked if I wanted to check out the Waratah, I honestly wasn't that interested because I just thought, it's just gonna be another quilt and I'm already kind of over those. But there was something about this quilt and the price point and the features that when they combined, I thought this seems like really something special. So I had them go ahead and send it to me, and now I'm gonna explain what I thought was so cool about it. First, let's just go over the basic specs so you know what I'm talking about. There are two temperature ratings you can get these quilts in. This is the warmer one. This is the 18-degree Fahrenheit quilt, but you can also get something that's more like a 29. It'll save you $35 and 5 ounces if you don't need it to keep you that warm. Now, this quilt runs 27.5 ounces, which puts it pretty much right in the middle of my spectrum of quilts. Although it scores a little higher on its warmth rating, but when it comes to the price, $250, it absolutely smokes them all. So what are you getting for $250? Well, first of all, the fill of this quilt is 850 duck down. It is not DWR coated for a reason. That gets rid of the natural oils in the down, which actually makes it pretty hydrophobic naturally. Instead, they have taken this 10D nylon shell and given it a DWR coating. So this is going to handle moisture pretty well, but without compromising the natural ability of the down itself to shed water. All right, so let's walk through the quilt from top to bottom. First of all, you can see the baffles. These are a boxed baffle. That means that they don't pinch together after every seam. Rather, the seams are kind of floating above walls inside the baffles. That keeps you from getting cold spots at the seams. Further, this is a differential cut, which means that the interior material is actually smaller than the outer, and that allows you to press up against it a bit more without crushing the down on the exterior. Now, this does have a neck baffle. It also has the pull cord so that you can cinch this down around your neck. There are snaps here so that you can basically get this thing all the way to a choke point if you feel like it. I really appreciate the extra reinforcement at the snaps. This is much tougher material than this very light, soft 10D nylon. As you can see, the baffles switch direction at the feet, so you're not gonna accidentally kick the down to the bottom. And the Neve overstuffs both the top and the footbox because that is where cold is usually the biggest problem. So the sides compared to the top and the footbox are a bit understuffed because they don't want to just waste that weight on something that isn't really going to be that important to retain heat. At the bottom, you have a cinch cord, also reinforced snaps, and a zipper that runs about to here, so you can get pretty cocooned into this thing if you want to, but you can also completely release it and use this thing as a blanket. So the quilt is very multifunctional. So I'm going to put this back into quilt mode here. This snap reinforces the zipper, so not only are you able to close this without the zipper, But if you do use the zipper, you're not going to be putting pressure on it. That allows them to make a smaller zipper that doesn't have to be quite as tough. Now, one of my biggest complaints about the Quilt was that every time I would move around, the sides would lift up, cold air would rush in, and I would have to reheat the sleep system. Now that is something that is going to keep you awake. It's going to ruin your sleep. Now, most quilts have some kind of pad strap system that they come with, meaning that they have an attachment point and pad straps that wrap around the pad and keep the quilt from lifting up when you move. Now, the problem with most of these is that the pad strap attaches right along the very bottom edge of the quilt, which means that unless you really crank it down and pretty much wrap it around your sleep pad, you're still going to lift up when you roll around. Sure, the pad straps might pull the quilt back into place once you've stopped moving, but they're not eliminating that initial cold blast of air. What Neve Gear has done is they have placed the attachment points on the side of the quilt instead of along the bottom edge. So when I release this, you can see there's a whole lot of quilt left under my attachment point. And what that means is that when this wraps around and attaches, there's still this much quilt in contact with the sleep pad wrapped around me, and it won't lift up because of the pad strap itself. Totally simple, brilliant idea. I don't know why I don't see this on more quilts. Now, there are a couple different sizes you can get this quilt in. I went with the large because although I'm only 5'10", which you would think is about 70 inches of length, I come out to about 80 when I'm normally sleeping. That's because as a stomach sleeper, my feet point down, so I have to kind of measure my height if I was standing on my toes. Further, I like to have an arm up. That doesn't matter a whole lot with a quilt. That has more to do with the size of the sleeping pad. But I wanted to make sure that I was going to have coverage up to my neck, even when I was splayed or stretched out on my stomach. All right, let's also talk about what comes with the quilt. First of all, you do have a storage bag, and this is also pretty unique. It has a mesh side so that it can air out, but it's a simple zipper closure, and when you put it all together, it actually is like a packing cube. The cube shape makes it so much easier to put away, so much easier to pack, and this is a great size. It fits into most of my packs very well. It'll slide in because of the nylon, but it will also let air out because of the mesh. I mean, this could be a $30 or $40 accessory right here. Comes with the $250 quilt. In addition, Neve Gear gives you a dry bag. Now, this is an 8-liter dry bag, but you only need 5.7 liters to pack this up. So there's plenty of room for a couple of folds. And now you have a nice waterproof container for your quilt. About halfway through the specs on this quilt, I would have put it at minimum $300, if not $350 or $400. I am amazed that Neve Gear can get away with selling this thing for only $250. Check out the links in the description below if you are interested in this quilt, and if you are into hiking, camping, backpacking, and the gear that goes with it. Make sure to subscribe, click that bell, like the video, all that good stuff, and check these videos out if you are interested in checking out the Zen Bivy system or a sleeping bag that is great for stomach or side sleepers. Until next time, I'm Doug. Thanks for watching.